So last week, we talked about the formula that has to happen for weight loss. This is what your body needs to lose weight, to feel joy while you're losing weight, to feel full while you're losing weight, and to feel like you can sustain it for the rest of your life. That formula was your meals need to be high in fiber, high in protein, high in volume, and low in calories. How do I do that every day for the rest of my life? Do I have to count out? Do I have to measure out? And that is an option. You may want to measure out your protein and your fiber and your calories. Those are like kind of the big ones at first, just to kind of see where you are. Sometimes we are shocked to know how much of something is in something or how little of something is in something. So maybe it's a good idea for like 2 weeks to measure it out and weigh it out and figure out how much protein and how much fiber you're getting and how much you need to get. But for me, unless I'm eating something really different, just kind of want to reestablish and make sure I'm kind of on the right track. Every now and then I might do these like counting the protein, counting the calories. But there's a little cheat code. For the most part, I do the plate method. Plate method is so easy. It almost feels too easy. Like, is this even going to work? That is so simple. That is so elementary. I feel like a child could do this, but isn't that the point? Our lives are so complicated. We don't want to add more complication to our lives. So that's why the plate method just works. And a lot of dietitians use the plate method. A lot of dietitians teach the plate method. That is what I used to lose all this weight. So we're going to talk about the plate method and how I approach the plate method. And this is what works. This plate is what works. All right, let me show you this ridiculously easy plate method. Now, you might say like some clients have to eat more calories than other clients. With my clients, we figure that out, and then I show them what they need to do to make their plate method work for their calories, whether they need to have like 3 meals and a snack or alter their plate a little bit. But generally speaking, plate method. Look, I found this downstairs. I have a poster board, so I'm doing this. I'm just going to do this real quick. So we have our plate. Woo! And just think of it as that's big. But your normal dinner plate is not that big, of course. But think of your normal dinner plate. What you can do is think half your plate non-starchy veg. Okay? And then a fourth your plate, the complex carb. And then a fourth your plate, the protein. Okay? I mean, how easy is this? You can do this anywhere. You can do this at home. You can do this at a restaurant. You can do this going on vacation. You can literally just say, how do I make this a plate method? So like at a restaurant, your burger could be your protein. That brings up something. So if you can have the complex carb, that's great. But if you're at a restaurant and they don't have whole wheat bread or something, you have to do what you do, and it's regular carbs. But your meat and your bread is kind of like these two things, but then you don't have room for your fries, right? So say you want fries. Fries will be your carb. You need to figure out a protein and a non-starchy veg. But for the plate method to work, there's not room for the bun and the French fries. Does that make sense? So that's kind of what's cool about the plate method. A lot of different variations to the plate method. That's the plate method, but what I do, because protein's so important, is, okay, so again, non-starchy veg, and I think fourth my plate carb, complex carbs, fourth my plate protein, but when I'm doing my food, I let the protein just kind of overflow a little bit and the complex carb to just kind of be a little bit of the smaller section. So I'm like 1/4-ish. So that's how I do that. That's kind of what my plate looks like. Or, okay, one other thing. Or when I'm doing, and I do lots of bowls, like salad bowls. Because what's cool is you can make almost anything into a salad. You want a burger, make a burger salad. You want tacos, make a taco salad, right? So, but when you're doing that, you're making the bulk of your plate, like the bottom of your plate, the non-starchy veg. So you're filling up your whole plate with that. And then your toppings are the complex carb and protein. Okay? Does that make sense? So there's that variation. All right, so when you're doing, when you're doing combination meals like spaghetti or something, and you're like, well, it's all mixed in. You still have to visually think the plate method. So say you're doing spaghetti, you want to add veggies to it, think, what's the bulk veggies? So the bulk veggies could be adding lots of zucchini and mushrooms and onions, and you also have your tomato sauce. You're not sugar added tomato sauce is basically just tomatoes. That's like the bulk veggies. I tend to use cognac pasta, the plant. So that's the bulk of my plate veggies, right? So you kind of visualize what, if you split everything apart, you're making spaghetti, but you split it apart, what would it still be the bulk veggies? Okay, last plate I want to mention is complex carbs. When they're part of my meal, I'll make sure they're a fourth of my plate. But every now and then they're not a part of my meal, just because like maybe I'm having salad, and I don't have complex carbs. So in that case, you just kind of think it's gonna be bulk veggies without the complex carbs. So that is a variation too of your plate. Just think the plate method is the bulk of your plate veggies. Make sure you got a heavy-handed fourth your plate protein. That's what I'm gonna call it. So bulk your plate veggies, heavy-handed fourth your plate lean protein, and then when you have complex carbs, a fourth your plate complex carbs. That's your plate method. Let's think about bulking our plate up with veggies. I love to get lots of bags of frozen veggies because I like my life to be simple and just keep them in the fridge and keep them in the freezer, throw them in the microwave when I just need some veggies on my plate. We're talking about bulking up our plate with fiber. We're talking about bulking up our plate with something really low in calories so you can eat a lot of it and have a bigger meal without adding the calories. So there's a couple other things you can use instead of non-starchy veggies on occasion, as long as you're getting your non-starchy veggies. A couple of things you can use are egg whites. They're very low in calories, and so you can add volume with egg whites. And soup. Soup, the liquid, if you're eating a fat-free soup like a fat-free chicken broth or vegetable broth or tomato, like a tomato soup, those things, the bulk of your plate is the liquid. That can be your bulk, right? That can add volume. I want to say a little something about soup. So studies show that soup can be helpful if we incorporate it in our diets. Like if we're trying to lose weight, it seems to be really beneficial to make sure there's soup in that diet. For some people, it seems to actually help them lose weight versus if they didn't have soup. It makes sense, right? It's helping us follow that formula where the bulk of our plate is a low calorie option, so we're eating high volume. So that's one thing. So that's why soup is great, and egg whites. Now, let me give you some other ways that you can bulk up your plate with non-starchy veggies, but it feels different. It doesn't feel like just adding a bunch of broccoli on your plate. There's cognac pasta, which is a plant. For one serving of cognac pasta is only 4.5 calories. I usually get the bag, which is 2 servings, so I eat 9 calories for the whole thing of cognac pasta. Palmini pasta is similar. It's like 20 calories for a serving, so that's another pasta you can use. Of course, you can use zoodles. I personally like the cognac pasta. I think it tastes more like pasta, but I like the zoodles too. To me, it's not pasta. I'm eating something different. It's good, but it's not pasta. If I do get the cognac pasta, just my personal preference, I like the fettuccine the best, and I don't really love the angel hair, but that's just me. Bulk up your plate with cauliflower rice. All right, we're all about, and I talked about this in the first episode, that I'm all about joy and enjoying our food, like loving it. So I really like cauliflower rice submerged in something. Like I love it in a chili, like throw it in my big old thing of chili and I cannot tell it's there. But if I'm eating straight cauliflower rice in place of rice, I can tell the difference. So, I can do half and half, or just not do it and find another way to bulk up a plate, right? So, and make a fourth of my plate white rice and then bulk my plate up with something else. So you can do that. You can do zucchini toast. Zucchini is your toast. A lot of times I use cucumbers and I slice them up and I use those as my cracker. So I'm bulking up my plate with veggies there. I'm making kind of the base of my plate, the cucumbers instead of crackers. So dark leafy greens, they have lots of fiber, and that's one of the easiest ways to bulk up your plate and turn it into anything. Like I said, you can make a taco salad. You make it, if you love a sub sandwich, make it a sub salad, burger salad. Like you can turn anything. When I eat, we get hibachi almost every Sunday night, and I get hibachi. I get white rice, I get the hibachi chicken, but then I come home and I fill up my plate with dark leafy greens. I put a fourth of my plate the white rice, a fourth heavy-handed fourth plate my chicken, and I have bulked up my plate. I've eaten this giant plate of food. I have enough left over now of the hibachi. I'm still eating a huge amount of food, but I have hibachi left over to use in another meal because I didn't use all the rice. Cucumbers and carrots and celery for my dips instead of crackers and chips. So I was bulking up my plate. Lettuce wrap. Lettuce wraps are a great way to bulk up your plate with veggies instead of using a wrap. I do like, if I'm using a wrap, I love to use the high fiber, low carb wraps, but you still want to bulk up your plate with veggies. So I would fill my wrap up with veggies, right? Frozen mashed cauliflower. Unlike cauliflower rice, which I feel like my kids could tell a difference, frozen mashed cauliflower, we like make loaded mashed potato bars with my family and they love it, and we use the mashed cauliflower. It's great. They can't tell the difference. Palmini lasagna, you can get palmini rice, all kinds of ways to bulk up your plate and it's not really feeling like half your plate's veggie. I think that is a good stopping place for this episode, and I don't know, we have so much to talk about. I don't know what next episode will be, but it's going to be good. It's going to help you glow up. We are glowing up after 40. We have 60 days to glow up after 40, and I'm going to have something good for next week. I think I have an idea.